bad actors to move in and do what they do. They freeze grants, they freeze money that was already allocated by Congress, rendering people unable to do their jobs. They lay off all kinds of people. It was so ironic that we saw a record high of people visiting national parks last year, and now they've laid off hundreds and hundreds of people from those national parks. And that's just one example, because the people are still going to come. If there was a record number last year, I'm sure even more people will go this year, probably because it's a relatively affordable vacation and we all need to get away. We need to commune with nature and have another side of life to look at. But now you're going to go and they're not going to be maintained. There won't be somebody to rescue you if you get lost, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, unless we can find a way to undo what's being done, which we were theoretically told could not be done. Now, not only is Department of Justice going after the UC system, which I'm sure is just the beginning, right? It's kind of like a warning shot for other colleges. They're going after them, investigating them for anti-Semitism. Not only that, all colleges and universities don't know what their funding is going to look like as this Republican regime decides that they are going to punish colleges, punish universities for having diversity, equity, and inclusion, which they lump together everything from black student unions to themed dorms, the Latino dorm or the women rowers dorm or whatever it might be, to possibly student clubs like black student unions. So colleges don't know. And they're preemptively surrendering, which I absolutely disagree with. I'm like, stand and fight. Don't punk out and just say, okay, I give up all my rights. Just don't kill me. Just keep giving me money. So some of these schools are cutting down the number of doctoral students, for example, that they will accept. The New York Times reports they're reneging on offers that they've already made to students because the administration is cutting funding that these institutions plan on, cutting grants and contracts, defunding research on deadly diseases, on new cures. The universities are laying off researchers, rescinding offers in the schools of arts and sciences and in other areas as well. Of course, cutting out and erasing any evidence of their DEI programs, and even programs that aren't DEI, that these uneducated folks inside, uneducated or educated and purposely malevolent folks in this regime will maybe label as DEI. There's so many layers to this. We were expecting to have a professor in here, but we can talk about it because there's so many layers to this. Number one, look at the fact that the group of people least likely to vote for this current president are college educated people. Lowest numbers for Trump among college educated people. Okay, so there's one incentive that for them to not only cut colleges and universities, but squeeze the pipeline, the public school system, so that only the rich get great education, the rich who are more likely to side with the oligarchs because they are of that class now going into colleges and universities. They want to reshape those institutions because they realize that by people getting educated, by people knowing their history, by people knowing their, not just their history, but how government works, how the levers of power move, how societies work, that they would be less likely to believe the BS that these folks are feeding them, right? So reshaping these institutions, realizing that colleges and universities raise consciousness, make people more likely to be resistant to authoritarianism, to fascism, dictatorship, not only because they know how government works, but because they understand what fascism, authoritarianism, and a stripping and denial of rights, what that looks like, what it leads to for women, for Black people, for BIPOC people, for society at large, for the poor. So they want to reshape these institutions. Everything's going to be PragerU, where you get made up history, no facts, fact-free education, where your professors spew BS like that congressional speech that the president made where he just says anything he wants. He says 25 million people poured over the border when that is not even supported by any even skewed facts or fake facts. It's just made up. They just make stuff up out of whole cloth. That's the education system that they want to replace. And if you think about, when I say there's layers to it, I mean, we've talked a lot and folks speak on the fact that, outlawing Black history classes, which the new Secretary of Education couldn't even tell you whether they're currently legal, or Latino history, or Indigenous Native American history, Asian, all that stuff that goes under ethnic studies, where he's bragging in his State of the Union about eliminating CRT from schools, which wasn't even in schools until you get to the graduate level. But now you're talking about cutting back on research for new medicines, for how to stop diseases, for breakthroughs in science and technology. So we can be the Luddites that are behind China, that are behind the rest of the world, that's not stupid enough to stop the scientists from studying. That's crazy. The University of Pennsylvania administrators have asked the departments in the School of Arts and Sciences, which is their biggest school, to cut the number of incoming PhD students. We want less doctoral students. We want less people with PhDs. We want less people who can invent things and break through and change the world. Make it make sense. Coming under the mandates of the self-proclaimed genius Elon Musk, who in reality what he's done is gone in and done hostile takeovers or semi-hostile takeovers or buyouts of companies like Tesla, which already existed when he came in as an investor, pushed out the two original inventors who already had a prototype for that car, even though Musk lied about it on Joe Rogan and said there was no company, there was no staff, there was no car until he came. Well, that's provably wrong. It's documented. But anyway, so you're the so-called genius who says on Saturday Night Live that, hey, you didn't expect me to be a normal guy. I reinvented the electric car and I'm going to put people on Mars, both of which are lies. Okay, maybe he will put people on Mars, but he hasn't done it yet. All he does is walk around with the shirt, Occupy Mars, and take credit for other people's inventions and PayPal and Tesla, buy them out, colonize corporations, and then aggrandize himself. I said it on Instagram, and it's one of the most liked comments I ever made, which is that Elon Musk's main talent is convincing you that he's a genius. That is his main talent. It's like cocaine. I call it the perfect consumer product because all it does is make you want more cocaine. That's like Elon Musk. What he does is make you believe that you need more Elon Musk. Make you believe that he's a genius while he steals other people's ideas and sucks off the government teat to the tune of $40 billion. Initially illegal alien, y'all like to call them aliens. I call them people. Undocumented oligarch. How about that? He's an undocumented oligarch who has got $40 billion of your money and is now saying that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme because he doesn't want to subsidize what he calls the parasite class. Our older Americans, our moms and grandmas, our aunties and great uncles who rely on Social Security to live. They're not parasites. They paid into it their whole life. And if it wasn't for the government raiding the Social Security fund whenever they need extra money, Social Security would be solvent. If the U.S. government would pay back what it owes to Social Security would be solvent. If they would make the rich pay in, Social Security would be solvent. There's a cap. When you make over a certain amount of money, you don't have to pay into Social Security. What kind of BS is that? Let's make the rich pay into Social Security. That alone, even if the government didn't pay back what they've pulled from the general fund, would make Social Security solvent. Why shouldn't the rich pay into Social Security? Well, they're not going to need it. You don't know that. What if they lost everything? What if the stock market keeps crashing under Trump? What if the unintended consequences of multiple wars and trade wars make Elon Musk penniless? Highly unlikely, but it could happen. Look, he'll have Social Security waiting there for him if he needs it. And he'll be paid out at the highest level because he has such a vast income. Fix it. They don't want to fix it. They want to slash it so they can take that little money and add up all the little money and make it into big money and give themselves tax cuts so the richest man in the world can be even richer. That is evil. That's evil. You already have more than you can spend, buy, or use in your entire lifetime, in 100 lifetimes. But you want to call our moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas the parasite class? You've got $38 billion that you've gotten off of our government. Who's the real parasite? 800-920-1580 if you want to join me in conversation. You know where you are. This is where the people are. This is where we're unbossed, unbought, unbothered, unapologetically progressive. I'm Dominique DiPrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
1 in 3 children born today will get diabetes. This sad prediction by the Centers for Disease Control will come true if millions of Americans don't improve their lifestyles, especially by changing what they eat, how much they eat, and how active they are every day. Every 23 seconds, another American gets diabetes. Stop diabetes before it starts. To learn more, contact the American Diabetes Association or download our free diabetes education programs at learningaboutdiabetes.org.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Nia.
Hi, Nia. It's Jennifer. Did you know that Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, I work here.
Okay. I was just double checking. Get it?
Because Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, you get me, Nia.
You could say that I double get you.
I guess we've taken it too far.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
There's new reaction following the Trump administration's sweeping efforts to cut the federal workforce.
Fired but not forgotten. The Testimony Project. Bearing witness, breaking silence, building community. KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to amplifying the voices of Black federal workers impacted by the mass firings, rooted in the Black tradition of testimony. This initiative ensures that those who served us are not erased from history. Through firsthand accounts, investigative storytelling, and community-driven dialogue, we intend to expose injustice, preserve truth, and demand accountability. If you or someone you know has been forced out of federal employment due to the mass firings, please contact us at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or via the open mic feature on the KBLA 1580 app. We want to hear from you and share your story. KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Rest in peace to Roy Ayers. You know, I never did a deep dive on this man, but the more I'm reading now, Miles, the more I realize I did know a lot of his music. I just didn't focus in. Erykah Badu called him the king of neo soul and said he was the godfather that created this sound. When he took his jazz roots and that electric jazz of the Miles Davis, era to into the funk sounds of the 70s and created this blend. The Roy Ayers sound is what Robert Glasper called it. And I know, My Life in the Sunshine has been sampled a lot, right?
Yeah, people like Mary J. Blige had it and everything. So yeah, he's a very well sampled. Kanye sampled a lot of his music as well. But yeah, go watch his Tiny Desk when you get a chance. Watch his Tiny Desk when you get a chance about him, getting down live on the xylophones. That's magical to watch.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I will definitely go look at it. And I didn't realize he had collaborated with Alicia Keys and that he was on a song with Guru and Tyler, the Creator, not as a sample, but as an actual musician playing on those songs with the roots and stuff. I mean, not that you're not an actual musician if you're sampled, but in the original recording is what I mean.
Yeah, he was still putting out music up until, I think I saw till last year, 2024. He was still dropping music. So,
and he was quite sick. Apparently, he was battling an illness for a long time. He's on Cleva, which is, Erykah Badu, of course. And just that, another thing I just found out right now when I'm reading up going, wow, okay, find out more about Roy Ayers. He made his transition. He did the soundtrack for Coffee, which is a classic kind of blaxploitation film. And those movies, if nothing else, they were going to have great soundtracks, right?
Yeah. I think the music community is going to feel this one pretty good once we do our deep dive and really understand who we just lost right here, a real pioneer of culture and sound. I think the music community is really going to feel this one. So.
Yeah, I'm sad when I see stuff like this because I feel like I didn't give this guy his flowers while he was here, even though I benefited from his genius and his artistry in so many ways. But I guess that's the beauty of having those deep roots in the art, in the culture, which is when you pull up your roots and go with God, all of us say, man.
Yeah, same week as Angie Stone too.
Yeah. It feels like a lot of folks are leaving us.
Yeah,
it really does.
It's sad. It's very sad. I just hope that we really appreciate this art while we have them. We appreciate the creators while they're here, and just acknowledge the time we in, man. Acknowledge it, please. He
had his album in 1973. For those of us who think we're hip and modern and cutting edge, his 1973 album was titled Red, Black, and Green. Yeah, put that in your consciousness and and smoke it. In any case, rest in peace to Roy Ayers. And like you said, Miles, I think the more we learn about this man, a vibraphone player, a composer, and a jazz funk band leader, his band was called Ubiquity, the more we will appreciate him.
Yeah, gone too soon. R.I.P. Roy Ayers, man.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to Eric calling us from the city of Carson. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Dominique. I want to say rest in peace to Roy Ayers and to another artist who is a favorite of mine, Angie Stone.
Yes.
And then I want to say that I'm so envious of Miles being able to work with you and talk with you every day. I would love that. So I really would. I just wanted to make two quick points. One on your current topic about Elon Musk. Business strategies are to innovate, take risks, focus on vision, hire the best people, and build a strong brand, which he's done with Tesla and SpaceX. So he is the model of the free world.
But here's the thing is that he's not really innovating. He's leeching off people that do innovate. I mean, I think you're right. He invests in the best people. And then he pushes them out of their own innovation and takes credit for it. I mean, if you really do a deep dive, that's what he actually has a history of doing. Is that the model that, I mean, I guess it's kind of what Trump does too. He puts his name on buildings. He doesn't build the building. He puts his name on it and calls it Trump Gaza.
Yeah, it's above my head, but he apparently is doing what it takes to be successful, and I don't agree with, his, get down, but, it is what it is. And I would like to, last week I called in, and I think you had a guest on named Chris. I don't remember his last name, but I wanted to make a follow-up point regarding reparations. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's Chris Lodgson. Yeah, go ahead. We've got a minute till news, traffic, and sports, but you could continue on the other side. Go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted to say that I thought that the Native Americans, their reparations were the casinos that they have. And I did a little research, and I think I'm right. You can correct me, but I think what I found out was that they were given land. And then they decided to make a business model, and they came up with the casinos. And I feel like Black people, we are looking for reparations. This has been going on since the 18th century, talking about reparations from what we were stolen, our heritage, in addition to much more. So that being the case, we're looking for a check. And I don't think we should be looking for a check. I think we should be looking for land. Then we can parlay that into much, much more.
Well, Eric, I'll give you a special pass. You can call us back on Friday because that's when we usually do our Freedman Fridays to do a deep dive in reparations. A lot of things you brought up I would love to elaborate on further. Right now we're up against news, traffic, and sports, and we'll keep it going when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Mayor Brandon Johnson defends Chicago's sanctuary city status during a GOP-led hearing, asserting it doesn't increase crime. He had heated exchanges with Republicans, including Representatives Nancy Mace and Darren LaHood, while testifying alongside the mayors of Boston, Denver, and Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams. China warns it's ready to fight any type of war with the U.S. after President Trump imposed more tariffs. The Chinese embassy stated, quote, "If war is what the U.S. wants, we're ready to fight till the end," end quote. Beijing will impose tariffs on U.S. goods next week. The Vatican reports Pope Francis is in stable condition. He resumed some of his work. No respiratory issues were noted. And former Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner died early Wednesday. His body is in Washington, D.C., following protocol for deceased Congress members. Turner, who is Black, had bone cancer. Memorial service details will be announced by his family. He was 70. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Imagine a photograph of your favorite place in California. Then right in the middle of it, one piece of litter. Litter has no place in our lives, not one piece. Together, let's change that. Clean California. Zero litter is the goal. CleanCA.com.
This This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Another win for the Lakers, another milestone for LeBron.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event. Or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to announce that, like George and Weezy,
we're moving on now.
Earlier this year, we were named as semifinalists for the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025. Wait for it. Wait for it.
You ready?
KBLA Talk 1580 was recently selected as one of 10 finalists being considered for this prestigious award. Hundreds of organizations, institutions, and even cities were nominated in the selection process. But KBLA Talk 1580 has made it to the finals. You're invited to watch live on Wednesday, April 16th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, as Eco America announces the winner and the runner-up, awarding over $200,000 in prize money. To watch live, just go to ecoamerica.org to register and attend the online ceremony. That's ecoamerica.org. Don't miss the presentation of the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025, Wednesday, April 16th, and wish us luck. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black. Who cares about the black community in Altadena? We do. On Saturday, March 8th at 10 a.m., it's the premiere of Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr. This new weekly show will explore the deep roots and resilience of Altadena's black community as we track its recovery and reimagine its future. From relief efforts to rebuilding, we're raising up voices, stories, and solutions to build back Black Altadena better and stronger than ever. It's Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr, every Saturday at 10 a.m. beginning Saturday, March 8th, with an encore presentation, Sundays at noon.
James Farr, the man who is the voice for Black Los Angeles.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
You've tried everything, but you won't give up. You've tried everything, but you won't give up. You've tried everything, but you won't give up.
I guess you wonder where I've been. I searched to find a love within, and I came back to let you know. Got a thing for you, and I can't let go. My friends wonder What is wrong with me? Well, I'm in a daze from your love, you see.
KBLA Talk 1580. We got that Roy Ayers energy going on around here. How can you be smooth and funky at the same time? That's what I want to know. I'm just asking. How can you be smooth and funky at the same time? I am joined right now by my colleague and friend, Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. He is obviously joining us from Washington, D.C., where he stays on top of all things political. Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, thanks for jumping in the clutch this morning. I appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you. It's always a good day to be with Dominique DiPrima.
Well, that's very kind of you to say, given the fact that you have your own show, A More Perfect Union, from 4 to 6 p.m. on this same radio station. It's not like you don't get your airtime, so I appreciate you jumping on with me.
Anytime.
Yeah, we were just talking about, Roy Ayers making his transition yesterday. He was, and it seems like a lot of people are dying, and I'm like, well, let me check on this. So I'm just double checking. So far in 2025, Roy Ayers, Angie Stone, the Isley Brothers, Chris Jasper, Gene Groove Allen, Chelsea Reject, Irv Gotti, Gwen McCrae, Jerry the Iceman Butler of The Impressions, Roberta Flack, Sam Moore of Sam and Dave, Brenton Wood. I mean, it's only March. That actually does seem like a lot of people.
It does feel like a lot of people, and I, a lot of us are still recovering from the loss of Quincy Jones.
Right.
I mean, part of what we are experiencing is a loss, or at least what feels like a loss of, musical geniuses, right? These are folks who really helped us to raise consciousness, or help to explain the human condition through art. And the beautiful thing about music is that it never goes away, right? And so, we get to continue to groove to Roy Ayers and to Quincy Jones and Angie Stone, Roberta Flack, and too many more to name till the end of time. And, in that way, they are immortal.
Yeah, it's true. I guess that's why it's a good thing you wrote a book, right? Because that also gives us some immortality. I feel like radio is very ethereal. You do it, you say it, and then boom, it disappears. I always think about that when I think of legacy. People say, oh, that DJ so-and-so or that talk radio host so-and-so. And, well, I guess we have our shows on YouTube. At least we have that. Nee.
Yeah, we have that. And I think the podcast really represents sort of a time capsule, right? Yeah. People will look back and they're going to want to know, what were people talking about? What were people doing? How were people organizing? How are they responding, to these headlines in the moment? And I hope that we're doing our part to give people as much evidence as possible in terms of, what was happening and how people were responding to the moment.
The resistance. The book is Kamala, the Motherland, and Me. It's got 4.6 stars on Amazon. People like your book. How is that playing out in this moment where folks are either slicing, dicing, and blaming the former vice president, or they're waxing nostalgic and saying, oh, she predicted this, the clip going around Instagram of her telling Donald Trump how he was going to acquiesce to Putin, and Putin would be sitting with Trump in Kyiv and all the stuff, which seems very, very prescient at this time. But how does it feel for you to be an author that wrote about her and worked closely with her at this moment after she lost the election?
Well, there are lots of feelings that a number of readers of the book have shared with me about what it means to have gone on that literary journey with me, and then to be experiencing what our country, what the world is experiencing with the second coming of Donald Trump as president. Look, I felt like I did my duty. I felt like, it was an important story to tell. It was a profile in leadership on the world stage from a historic first. And as much as people, try to belittle the vice president and the vice presidency, as much as people try to make her into a DEI hire, I think what people are starting to see is that, no, she actually was right about this. She actually warned us about this. No, she actually wasn't the caricature that, bad actors, both foreign and domestic, tried to make her out to be. And so I have no doubt that the story that I was proud to write and share will age well with time. I think it will act as a marker in time, and that it will draw an increasingly deep contrast with Donald Trump in the weeks and months and years ahead.
Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, I'm going to need you to talk me off the ledge this morning. And I'll tell you
we go hold hands and talk each other off the ledge.
Okay. All right. Let's do that. And I'll tell you why. Because right now I'm really, really thinking about leaving the Democratic Party. I've been a member of the Democratic Party my whole life. I consider myself the progressive edge of said party. I feel like the corporatists and the traditionalists have typically, both exploited and squashed a lot of the energy of the progressive wing, which has actually kept the party alive this long. But now I just think watching the non-response, watching the way that Democrats are this stupid soul searching instead of challenging the voter suppression, challenging the improprieties, really doing more to fight what is not just a Republican takeover, but an authoritarian coup moving in real time to change our system of governance. And now I'm reading 10 Democrats joined House Republicans today to censure Representative Al Green for protesting during Trump's address to Congress. Meanwhile, Marjorie Taylor Greene and them can act up. They can yell, "You lie" in Congress. They can do all these things. And Dems not only they don't censure them, but you're going to join in on censuring Representative Al Green, who all he did was fact check the president in real time saying you don't have a mandate, which Trump did not have. And Democrats timidly knocking on the doors of departments going, you got to let us in. But letting one security guard stop them when they are the actual Congress. I don't know if I can stay in this party.
Yeah. Dominique, you are not alone. I think there are a number of people that have just been underwhelmed by the response from the Democratic leadership. Just last night, I tuned into a call led by Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries and a number of folks in seniority in the House Democratic caucus. It seems to me that there are folks that are making the calculus about what is it going to take in order to win the 3 or 4 seats that they need in order to flip the House. People are paying a bit too much attention to the next election and not enough attention to the next pay period. Right now, so many of our fellow Americans are concerned about that next pay period. Right here in Washington, D.C., where thousands upon thousands of federal workers, are feeling the squeeze. And let me just add, Dominique, that federal workers don't just live here in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. There are, in fact, more federal workers, as you know, outside of the DMV area than people who live here, right? And so, what's happening here is also happening in communities across the country, and it doesn't seem that Democrats are sort of seizing upon that in a way that sort of meets the moment. It is my personal view that I think the change that people are looking for, the leadership people are looking for within the Democratic Party, I think right now they may find that outside of Washington. They're going to find that at the grassroots level. They're going to find it with national organizations that have local chapters, local affiliates, local presence. And so I encourage people, do not despair. I don't think we can expect one political party alone to meet this moment. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think the surest way to get to the other side of what we are experiencing is going to be in community. And if you aren't signed up and engaged with a grassroots organization, if you're not a part of a national network of organizations, today's a good day to take a gander and reconsider that.
Okay, so that was great advice, but I don't know if it convinced me not to leave the party. We'll continue this conversation. Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. I'm Dominique DiPrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
The Eaton Canyon fire devastated many black families in Altadena, taking more than just homes. It took memories, legacies, and generational wealth. The heart of a black community is now in jeopardy, but Justice Coalition, led by Gage and King LA Lawyers for the People, are here to help. If you've lost your home, we are standing by to hold insurance companies and utilities accountable for the damage caused. When the community suffers, we all suffer. Together, we can rebuild what was lost. Your recovery starts today. Call 626-429-1259. That's 626-429-1259. Or visit www.eatonfirelawyers.net. Justice Coalition, Gage and King, LA Lawyers for the People. We got you. Call 626-429-1259. Visit www.eatonfirelawyers.net. Again, 626-429-1259. This is attorney advertising. Past results do not guarantee future outcomes. Legal representation is provided by licensed attorneys.
They say the hardest part of getting something done is getting started. Well, we did that 30 years ago, when California first took on the tobacco industry. Now, smoking is down 60%, lung cancer 42%. A couple of our cities have already ended tobacco sales. A California without big tobacco isn't just possible, it's already happening. See our progress at undo.org.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part? They accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right, so we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Rinse it out. Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the stinks that just will never come out. Oh, Downy the rinse straight. Every now and then I rinse it out. One wash and it delivers. One wash, it smells so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Fights odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
So Congressman Al Green, he's 77. He represents mostly black district in Houston, has a cane, clearly not a threat. And he the House voted to censure him. This has only happened 28 times in the history of our nation that someone has been censured by the House of Representatives. 10 Dems voted yes on this. Henry Cuellar, Ed Case, Don Davis, Chris Pappas, Mary Peltola, Marie Glashenkamp, Jared Golden, Gabe Vasquez, Susan Wild, and David Scott. Thankfully, none of them are from California because I would have a lot to say about that. But still, this to me is the problem, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene gets up in the House and talks all kinds of crap while calling Biden a liar while wearing a MAGA hat. They act up. They have no consequences. They do a whole coup on the Capitol. They have no consequences. And yet 10 Democrats are willing to stand with Republicans in censuring Al Green. This, to me, is emblematic of why we say Democrats bring a knife to a gunfight. Democrats are a bunch of wussies. Democrats are not doing what it takes. And you call it planning for the next election. I call it being ineffective and undisciplined.
Look, I think that is how a lot of our fellow Americans see this right now. I was just listening in to Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. He just gave his Thursday press conference on Capitol Hill, and just looking at some of the comments from folks who are following along on Instagram, there are a lot of people that are frustrated, that are saying, match their energy.
Right.
Match their energy.
Right.
Right. And I think this is the message that, for any Democrat that is listening to this conversation right now, right, this is what the people are saying, is that you're not matching the energy of the Republicans. You're acting like a minority party and not an opposition party.
Yeah, and you're not matching the energy of your constituents. I mean, look at people are protesting at every Tesla site. They're going to state capitals. You know what I mean? They're freaking out at town hall meetings. And you guys are calmly calculating your next election and having dumb discussions about how to remake the party. Not only that, Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and I know you know a lot more about Washington than I am. I mean, you're based there. You're our official national affairs correspondent for this radio station. But this tack to the right, like more of campaigning with Liz Cheney, saying that it's time to reject the progressive and left elements within the party rather than leaning into them, because that is what distinguishes us from these oligarchs and grifters that currently control the government.
Mm-hmm. And I think a part of what we're missing here, Dominique, I think we don't talk enough about the consultant class of folks, right? And you've got to ask yourself, well, how is it that, we just had a very consequential election, and it seems it's yet and still Democrats in power are not matching the energy of the people. It feels a little ho-hum. They're still putting their faith, in institutions to sort of hold up against what the tyranny that so many of our Americans see afoot in this country, right? What is that about? And I think at least part of the answer to that question is, if we have the same consultants that are working for the Democratic Party, that are working for Democratic leadership, right, then we can't be surprised if we're getting the same mediocre messaging, the same, sort of underwhelming speak that, we've heard too much of, right? This is a part of the issue. And so, Ken Martin, the new DNC chair, I think he has some explaining to do. Are you going to clean up shop in terms of the consultants consulting the Democratic Party or not, right? I think the same is true for Democratic leader Jeffries and other folks in leadership. If you are engaging the same team that you had before November 5th, right, then it's not going to make a material difference in the eyes of people that are looking for inspiration. They're looking to be inspired. They're looking for their representatives to do what? To represent.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because where do these consultants even come from? They're not elected, they're selected, right, by the parties and paid. Like, how do you become a consultant? Where do these guys get their ideas? And women, I know a lot of them are guys and a lot of them are white, from my experience. So where do these folks come from?
Well, a lot of them are folks who have worked on the political campaigns for these electeds, right? And they're loyalists. They're loyal to these electeds, right? And the fact of the matter is, there may be folks that are loyal to them, but are ineffective in meeting this moment. There's a reason why there are a lot of young people out there, particularly our young fellow Americans, who gravitate towards AOC, who gravitate towards Maxwell Frost, who gravitate towards Jasmine Crockett, right? People need to see and feel that their elected officials, are hearing them and are channeling them, right? And the last thing I'll say, Dominique, I think it's important that we understand that there's a difference between the work of our political leaders and our movement leaders. And I think there are a lot of people out there that want our political leaders to bring more movement leadership, to bring more moral clarity to their work. I'm not convinced that leaders here in Washington are capable of doing that at this time.
That's an interesting distinction and a great point. But I think everything you've said about consultants and also movement leaders, because movement leaders tend to be on the ground at protests, in community meetings, and that's where you get a sense of how people are thinking and where the public, the constituents, the voters, where they're coming from. And it seems to me that in some ways, these consultants create a layer of isolation between the campaigning politician and the actual elected official and the people who they are supposed to be serving.
Yeah, and I think the same is also true in terms of the editorial class. When we talk about, the world of journalists, right? A lot of people say, well, how come these reporters didn't ask this question, or they're not doing this or doing that, right? Well, the reporters also have a boss, and a boss that decides what goes to air, what doesn't go to air, what goes to print and what doesn't go to print. And so we oftentimes blame the journalists, right? But we don't have a line of sight to, well, who's their boss, right? I mean, think about, the story coming out of the story related to the Washington Post or the LA Times, where it took Jeff Bezos, it took, the publisher of the LA Times to make it obvious before people understood, oh, wait a minute, there's somebody there outside of the journalists that are making decisions in terms of what we get to see and the stories that we get to read. And so as much as we need to hold our elected officials accountable, as much as we need to make sure, that we're challenging journalists to widen the lens and tell a more comprehensive, nuanced story, we also can't take our eyes off of the people that they report to and the people that consult them.
And that's a really good way of helping folks understand why it's so problematic when the Trump administration, when the Republicans sue CBS, when they go after individual reporters, when they handpick who gets to come in to the press corps of the White House, because that's sending messages to the bosses of the journalists, and it makes the journalists preemptively surrender or kowtow so that they don't have to be shut out of the process or lose their jobs.
That's right. And we are going to be digging into this and more later today on A More Perfect Union from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. That's 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. In the first hour, I have a Washington Reporters Roundtable with Ebony McMorris of American Urban Radio News Network and Jaron Keith Gaynor from TheGrio. And then in the second hour, we're talking with Jesse Jackson Jr., our colleague, who also has a show on KBLA. And we're also talking to Dr. Ravi Perry, a political science professor over at the Howard University.
Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, thank you so much. Tavis Smiley is up next. Y'all know that. History is now, and we're making it together, like my mama used to say. Until tomorrow, stay informed, stay free. One love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIS Once. We're ready to fight till the end, end quote. Beijing will impose tariffs on U.S. goods next week. The Vatican reports Pope Francis is in stable condition. He resumed